Who are you? And where are you going? What do you want?
Hello and welcome to Jiggers' Place. It has been a bit of a afternoon here in Los Angeles. Sorry for beginning late. You know how business goes. It's only the second day of the year. Crazy. And then I got a sneezing attack. So thank you for joining me and for the first episode of Jiggers' Place here in the new year, 2025. If you've seen the show before, so you're looking, you're saying, wait, something looks a little bit different. Yes, I completely, well, not completely, but I substantially reorganized my bar. I got rid of a lot of the clutter and also made it so you can actually see what's going on. Because before I had all this stuff stacked up here, you couldn't see what I was doing. And I thought, really, for those of you who especially tune in for the cocktail making portion, you really should be able to see what I'm doing. So here we go. So for the new year, I'm going to be talking about what I think are the fundamental building blocks of living a healthy life. And in honor of that, with the help of ChatGPT, came up with a cocktail called a Vitality Spritz. Right? That sounds pretty good. So it includes orange juice, and I've got some orange juice that I got here from Trader Joe's. Pomegranate-infused vodka. This happens to be Stolichnaya, and this is a white pomegranate flavored vodka. It's Russian vodka. With due respect to Ukraine, I had this a long time, long before Russia invaded the country. And also, when I was in the store earlier today, I found this pomegranate concentrate. So I'm actually going to use a mixture of the vodka and the pomegranate concentrate rather than using all vodka. So I think that it'll be more pomegranate flavor. And then the ginger liqueur that I've used before, and lime juice, and we're gonna garnish it with some cucumber slices. These are hothouse cucumbers. So I got my trusty shaker here, and we're gonna start out with an ounce of orange juice. Let's see. Okay. Pour that in. Okay, and then we're going to use, like I said, a combination of the pomegranate-infused vodka with some pomegranate. Now this is pomegranate concentrate. When I was in the store, a man came and said, "Oh, get this! This other brand is much better." It was actually pomegranate molasses, which is different because it had sugar in it and all kinds of stuff. This is just pure pomegranate. So jus de grenade concentré, right? Pomegranate, and it's got natural colors in it from the, I guess from the skin of the pomegranate. So. And it's got that beautiful sort of reddish purplish pomegranate color. So put that in there. Okay. And let's see. There we go. The ginger liqueur. So half an ounce of that. Estimate that. And lime juice, also a half an ounce. It would be better to use fresh lime juice. forgot to get a line when I was at the store. That's how it goes sometimes. And by the way, before mixing this, you'll want to get your glass ready. I'm using a wine glass, this nice kind of, I don't know, bulbous wine glass with some ice in it already. Okay, so we've got all that in it, right? All right, so we're gonna shake this up. And we want to do this for a good, 20 to 30 seconds. This gives all the flavors a chance to mix together, as well as let some of the ice melt to open up the flavors and all of that kind of thing. Just a little bit more, a little bit more. Okay. And you'll note if you downloaded the cocktail recipe, you'll see that we're going to top it off with some sparkling water. Okay, I've got my siphon here. I just reloaded it earlier today. Okay, so there we go. You can see the whole exterior of the shaker is all frosty. And let's pour this into the wine glass. Oh, it's got a lovely color. And we're going to top this off with some sparkling water. Now, the nice thing about a siphon, by the way, is because it's because of the way it works, it kind of mixes everything together while you spray it. So here we go. Let's give it a try. Nice and refreshing. I'll meet you over on the couch. So less clutter in the background. Yes. So here we are. It's January 2nd, 2025. Can you believe it? And very soon, next year, our country is going to be 250 years old. Wow. 1776, right? Yep. There we go. So to start off the year right, I wanted to talk about the fundamentals for living a healthy life. Now, I think most of the time when we hear the word healthy, we think physically healthy. And indeed, these are the three foundation blocks for living a physically healthy life. However, physical health and mental health are so closely tied together that these same three building blocks are also crucial to your mental health. And I would argue they're also crucial to your spiritual health, because while the spirit can transcend the physical nature of life, and it can overcome mental challenges, the spirit too has to replenish itself. And so if the vessel in which the spirit inhabits is not healthy physically and mentally, we're really putting a huge demand on the spirit. And to do that day in and day out, week in, month in, month out, etc., is really to play with fire. Okay, so another sip of cocktail.
It's really refreshing, which is what it's supposed to be because it's vitality. So the three fundamental building blocks to a healthy life are sleep, diet, and exercise. Okay. So if you watched my show yesterday, I mentioned I am not a believer in New Year's resolutions. I think they're too easily go by the wayside and all of that. What I am an advocate for is goals, and goals to incrementally improve. So I put those three in the order I gave them for a very specific reason. If you're challenged on all three, sleep, diet, and exercise, the one to start out with is sleep. Sleeping well will set the foundation for everything else. And if you're not sleeping well, diet and exercise will help, but not nearly as much as getting your sleep straightened out. So, what is sleeping well? So, if you were to talk to my friend, Dr. Michael Bruce, he would tell you need to know your chronotype, which is, and I'm not going to get into it because that's his area of expertise, but are you a night person, a day person? It's those kind of things. And that's important. But the bottom line is, if you're an adult, most adults need at least 7 hours of good solid sleep. Now, distinguish that from being in bed for 7 hours, because if you're in bed for 7 hours, you're not sleeping for 7 hours. Okay, you're not. Now, people say to me, "Oh, the minute my head hits the mattress, bang, I'm asleep." Okay, that's probably true. Or I'll take. I'm not saying it's probably true. I'll take you at your word. Okay, it's unlikely you're literally sleeping through the entire night. Okay, now there may be a very small minority of people who do, but most of us wake up, periodically during the night. I know even on nights when I get, good sleep, I still wake up 2-3 times a night. Sometimes, most nights I'm going to the bathroom at least once a night. I may get out of bed even twice or 3 times during the night. Okay, so we go through cycles in our sleep. We go through periods of deep sleep, of REM sleep, of light sleep. Okay, so in total, we need 7 hours of those 3 types of sleep: deep, REM, and light sleep. Okay, now I know for me, my deep sleep tends to be front loaded. So after I fall asleep, I generally speaking fall into deep sleep initially. And then throughout the rest of the night, I sort of move between REM and light sleep. And that's when I tend to wake up and that sort of thing. So now, and I just noticed I forgot to put my Oura ring back on. My friend Michael Bruce recommended the Oura ring, and it really is a great tool for understanding how well you're sleeping and for figuring out what do you need to do to sleep better. Okay, so there's basically 2 areas to consider for improving your sleep. One is your sleep environment, and the other is the behaviors in terms of things like what you eat and those sort of things that will impact your sleep. So let's take sleep environment first. Your bed should be comfortable. Okay, your bed should be a place where you sleep, as opposed to where you work or watch TV or do whatever. Okay, so I know I have a duck's bed. I love it. Super comfortable. Always wanted one, and it's terrific. You should have a comfortable pillow. The pillow I use may not be a pillow that's comfortable for me. I like a squishy down pillow. And other people like those foam pillows or whatever, or they like a polyester fill pillow, whatever. Find one that's comfortable for you. Okay. I like a fairly light blanket on me. Other people like a heavy blanket. Again, what makes you comfortable? The room should be cool to cold. Okay, so my thermostat is set to 64. Okay, so, and I like to sleep in a cold room. I cannot sleep well in a hot room. Okay, so if you're fortunate to have air conditioning, great. If you're not, you may need to have a fan. I have a ceiling fan in my bedroom. During the summertime, I will sometimes run the ceiling fan and the air conditioning in order to keep the temperature down. Okay, so the coolness in the room tells your body it's time to go to sleep. Okay, next, your room should be dark. Okay, so you should absolutely minimize, if not completely get rid of any sources of light in the room in which you sleep. So now I put up blackout curtains on all my windows. Okay, so even during the daytime, when I close my drapes, the room is pretty dark. Now, not as dark as it is at night because light does seep through, but a lot less light seeps through with blackout curtains. They're not expensive. You can go online and find them and hang them up, and that'll give you a dark room. It's best not to have a television in your room and to be watching television in bed, okay? Because that tends to keep your brain active. In fact, any source of blue light is particularly bad for sleeping, okay? So in terms of sleep environment, comfortable bed, comfortable pillow, dark room, nothing in the room that will distract you and keep you awake, okay? Now, in terms of preparation, so you don't want to eat, or you want to, you don't want to eat closer than an hour before your bedtime, I think is what Dr. Bruce recommends. And the longer the time is between when you eat and when you go to bed or when you go to sleep, the better. I know sometimes I end up having to eat late because of business commitments, whatever. It always pays me off in terms of lower quality sleep. Okay. In particular, caffeine and alcohol. Okay. 2 to 3 hours, stop the intake of caffeine and alcohol before you go to bed. Okay. Now you say, well, gosh, when I've had a couple of drinks, or I like to have a brandy right before I go to sleep, and I fall right asleep. That's true. But what happens with alcohol is essentially sugar. So while you may fall asleep, your body is still working hard processing the sugar. And if you had an Oura ring, you would see that your resting heart rate is elevated as a result of your body working to process the sugar in the alcohol, or for that matter, food, all food, which is why you don't want to eat too close and drink caffeine or liquor too close to bedtime. So I know if I have wine with dinner and then I, go to sleep right after, my resting heart rate will usually be 47 to 49, which for me is high. And in fact, the Oura ring registers it as high and it lowers my sleep score. If I wait a long enough time in between eating and whatever I'm drinking, I never drink caffeinated coffee, so it's not an issue, but whatever I'm drinking, my normal resting heart rate is the low 40s, 41, 42, maybe 43. Now you say, well, that's only like 5, 6, beats per minute. Yes, but it's a crucial 5 or 6. So I get vastly higher quality sleep when my heart rate is in the low 40s than it is when it's in the high 40s. Okay, so don't eat or drink. And by the way, even drinking water close to bedtime, it increases the likelihood you'll need to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, that interrupt your sleep, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to cut off, eating, sleeping, and drinking at least an hour, preferably a couple of hours or more before you go to bed. Okay. Don't exercise right before you go to bed. Exercising, we say, well, it makes me tired. Yes, it does, but it also raises your pulse rate. Okay. Which means even if you're sleeping, the quality of your sleep isn't as good. Okay. It's important to exercise. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but not right before you go to bed. Okay. Now, one of the things that Dr. Bruce mentions is, he talks about, should you wear pajamas or, a nightshirt or whatever. So the more clothing you wear, the more effort your body has to go to thermoregulate, because you have more layers, and those layers trap heat, they also mean the body has to adjust. So the fact of the matter is, you're best off not wearing anything when you sleep. Now, that may make you really uncomfortable, and so then it's counterproductive. But in terms of how to dress for sleep, that's the optimum way. Okay, so those are the basics of sleep. Okay, and if you're having trouble sleeping, get a sleep study. You may be suffering from sleep apnea, and if that's the case, you may need a CPAP machine or a mouth guard. I know I used to use a CPAP machine. I now use a mouth guard. And all of those things are very important. If you are overweight, for example, one of the reasons could be that you're not sleeping enough, or you're not getting enough good sleep. Okay. If you're feeling tired during the day, you're not, among other things, you're not getting enough sleep, or you're not getting high quality enough sleep, right? So that's why sleep is the fundamental building block. And I'll put Dr. Bruce's a link to his website in the show notes. There's a tremendous amount of information there. And if you're having trouble sleeping, I can't encourage you enough to check out Dr. Bruce's website. Okay, so sleep. Next is diet. Okay, so it used to be, in times gone by, we ate according to the 4 food groups. Meat, poultry, and fish was 1. Cereals and grains 2. Dairy was 3, and fruits and vegetables was 4. Now they got this whole food pyramid and all this. The food pyramid, I think, is way too complicated. There's a few basic principles of healthy eating. Okay? Number 1, eat as much real food as possible, as opposed to processed foods. Okay? And the more highly processed the food, the less healthy it is for you. Okay? So when I say eat real foods, eat, fruits and vegetables, right? Now, they can be cooked. And there are some fruits and vegetables that are healthier when they're cooked, like tomatoes, for example. Okay? Mushrooms as well. So I'm not talking about, you don't have to eat raw food. And by the way, raw food, again, is not necessarily healthier than cooked food. One of the most important inventions in human history was cooking food, because it gave human beings access to a lot more nutrition relative to the amount of effort it took to get that nutrition. So the problem with eating raw foods is it takes a lot of effort for our body to digest them. And we're not getting nearly as much energy out of those foods. So we have to eat more of them. It becomes somewhat of a cycle. Okay. So, fresh fruits and vegetables, meat, fish, poultry, they're all fine. I don't particularly care for meat and poultry. I do like fish quite a bit, but whatever you like, it's fine. But don't eat with all, it's best not to eat it with all kinds of sauces and junk on it. Just eat a nice, grilled steak or a nice piece of grilled chicken. Okay. or maybe some grilled chicken with just a little bit of hot sauce on it, as opposed to heavy sauces or ketchup or this kind of stuff. Okay. Same with fish, right? Fish with nice grilled fish is much better than fish with, fried fish with tartar sauce. Okay. Okay. So, grains, whole grains are best. Okay. So highly processed grains, not as good. Okay. Like bleached flour, not as good as whole grain flour. Okay. And whole grain bread is better than white bread, right? Okay. And then dairy. So there's been a trend. There was a trend for many years that fat was bad. Fat was bad. That turns out to be completely wrong. You're better off having low fat or full fat dairy products than non-fat dairy products. Now, your particular situation, your body may have a particular issue with fat. That's between you and your doctor. But in general, fat is not bad. Fat is what helps us feel full so we don't overeat. And what's happened is, with the whole no fat or get fat out of our diets trend, what people did is they started eating a lot more foods with sugar in them, and sugar is far worse for our bodies than fat ever was. Okay, so again, it's you can make lovely meals, cheese, and all these great things. Okay, but you want to eat as much real food as possible. Now, do you have to cut out all processed foods? Well, it depends who you talk to, right? I'm a believer that, look, let's be honest. Oreo cookies are delicious. I'm sorry, they are. They are. I understand nutritionally they're terrible. But you know what? So have a couple of Oreo cookies once in a while, or even a couple a day. No big deal, right? Much better to create a sustainable diet that includes some processed foods, but reduce the amount of processed foods, than it is to get frustrated with trying to eat no processed foods and give up improving your diet altogether. And that's where I think we make a mistake. Changing our diet is about incremental change, not revolution. Revolution rarely sticks. So, for example, if you're eating a lot of highly processed foods, and you're eating 3 meals a day filled with fast food and highly processed food, so just choose one meal that you're going to modify to eat healthier, and work on that for 3 months and optimize that the best you can. Okay. And maybe that's all you're going to do for this year. That's great. That's progress. Okay. Now, if you feel particularly strong after having made that change, maybe you'll work on a second meal, or maybe you'll work on making that one meal really healthy. Okay. And you won't worry about the other two for now. Or maybe you'll switch to eating only 2 meals. Okay. And you're going to eat one meal where you're very focused on being healthy, and the other meal, all right, you're going to do what you want for now. And you'll deal with that down the road. That's a much more sustainable plan than trying to revolutionize your diet and failing, where you're more likely to fail. Okay. So, like I said, look, my big thing, chocolate and ice cream. Okay. Not a big pie guy. I mean, cake, yeah, it's fine, but I don't need a whole lot of it. But chocolate and ice cream, I love them both. And most days I have a little bit of chocolate. Now, I look for high quality chocolate, but chocolate, after all, even high quality chocolate is cocoa and sugar and cocoa butter. I mean, sugar's not great. Now, that's not a highly processed food unless it's something like, Hershey's chocolate. But it's still a processed food, but so what? I enjoy it. And for most of us, life is not being, a monk. It's about incremental improvement. Okay, so those are what I would encourage you to focus on in terms of diet. Okay, just think about the 4 food groups and think of ways that you can eat more real food within those groups. Okay, with an emphasis on fruits and vegetables. Okay, and protein. And that way you will be light years ahead of most Americans. Okay, because the reality is, one of the reasons we have such a huge problem with obesity in this country, it's not because people are not exercising enough, it's because people have terrible diets, frankly. Okay, there is not enough hours in the day for you to exercise and do the other things you have to do to counteract a poor diet. That's why after sleep, diet comes next. Okay? All right. Third is exercise. Okay, I'm going to exercise my arm, have a little more cocktail. So, exercise. The fact of the matter is, minimum exercise we need each week is 3 sessions of aerobic exercise where we get our pulse rate up to, I think it's 165% of normal. Okay, but in other words, we want to get some walking or some running or some bicycling or some rowing, something that's going to get our heart pumping. Now, of course, before you start exercising, you have to make sure you're fit to exercise. So if you have any concerns on that basis, talk to your doctor and make sure that you're good to go. There was a time for me when my doctor, he said to me, my orthopedist, to be specific, said to me, it's time for you to stop running. Said, if you walk instead of run, you will be on a much more sustainable exercise path than if you continue to run and you just completely destroy your knees. Okay, there you go. And the fact of the matter is, it does take more time to walk because longer time to go the same distance. But I'm in this for the long game, not for the short game. So 3 times a week, a minimum of 20 minutes of aerobic exercise. We can all walk. We can go outside, get some sunshine, help generate some vitamin D, and walk through our neighborhoods, get some fresh air or at least somewhat fresh air depending on where you live. Okay, that's the minimum. Now, if you're not exercising at all, start out with just getting out and walking for 20 minutes 1 day a week. Okay, maybe there's phone calls that you typically make. Maybe you speak to a family member or relative or somebody once a week. Okay, so get out there with your headset or whatever, and while you're getting your exercise, have that phone call, and the time will pass and you'll be done with your exercise. You'll make your phone call, and you've, as they say, killed 2 birds with 1 stone. Okay, nothing wrong with that. Obviously, if you're walking in my neighborhood, you better pay attention because the cars will run you down. They could not care less. Okay, but that's perfectly fine. If you're more serious like me, I don't talk on the telephone when I'm out exercising. I put on my headset, my aftershocks. I get my music going, and I walk. I walk fast. So I walk. It's between 9 and 10 minutes per kilometer. Now, by the way, I used to run, 8 minutes per mile, 8 to 9 minutes per mile. So I've slowed down, but that is, it is what it is. Okay. But just start with 1 day a week. Okay. Now, if you're already doing some exercise, just try and add a little bit more in. If you're doing aerobic exercise already 3 days a week, so add in a day of doing some strength building, core building exercises. Okay, do some abdominal work and some arm and shoulder work. Okay, there's so many apps that are free, by the way, that will help you do this kind of core building exercise and do it in a low impact way. Help you keep track, and you can set up kind of a contest with yourself. Okay, you don't have to have a personal trainer. You don't have to be lifting weights. Okay, I mean, if like I struggle to be disciplined in doing core building exercises, so I do have a trainer that I work with a couple times a week, and that helps me. But it is an expense, and you may not be able to afford that. So then, there were times when I was using an app when I couldn't afford to have a trainer help me out. So I was just looking at, I don't know why, but I saw the results from it. I was looking yesterday. I think I was looking to get rid of some apps on my phone or something. Right? They're really good. I mean, look, there are a lot of app developers out there who really want to help you live a healthier life. So just get one of those. Okay. And again, don't try to completely revolutionize. I'm going to go to the gym 4 times a week and blah, 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 blah. No, probably not going to work. And I don't know about you, but I find going to a gym depressing because almost all the people there look better than I do. They seem to be working harder than I do. And it's a downer. Or it's like a meat market. All people are trying to do is pick up other people, and not interested in that either. So just start out making an incremental change, just like we talked about in diet, with exercise as well. Incremental change is the key. Now, you say, okay, well, that's all making me physically healthier, but you said these 3 foundational elements are going to make me mentally and spiritually healthier. Absolutely. So, proper sleep, good quality sleep, a good amount of sleep is absolutely essential to good mental health. Okay? And we know this because when our children don't sleep well, they're cranky. And newsflash, so are we. Right? Our crankiness isn't stemming from a physical ailment per se. It's because mentally we're tired and we're not able to exercise sufficient self-control. So we do things that people look at and go, wow, he's really cranky, right? So sleep is key to mental health. Diet is also very important in mental health. There's lots of studies, credible studies, that show the connection between good mental health and proper diet, right? And we know this. Like, why is it so nice to drink a cocktail? Well, because alcohol can help us relax. Now, obviously, too much alcohol, we get drunk, and that's a whole nother thing. But, a drink helps us relax. It helps us relax physically, but it also helps us relax mentally, right? So that's why we do it. But it's not just, alcohol is a part of a diet. Certain nutrients, vitamins, minerals impact our brain health, our mental health. Okay, caffeine has an impact on mental health. But also eating a good diet so that we're feeling physically strong. It means we don't have to drain so much of our mental energy on just, keeping focused and regulating our behavior. Okay, so that's why diet is such an important component of mental health. Okay, and finally, exercise. One of the reasons people think I love to exercise. I don't love to exercise. I'd much rather sit around. But the fact of the matter is, I live a very stressful life, and exercise is the least expensive way for me to release stress. and the healthiest way, right? Like too many people rely on too much alcohol to release stress. That's not healthy, right? We know this, right? So exercise helps us relieve stress. Okay, but aside from sleep, it's the next best thing we can do for mental health is to get regular exercise. Okay, and the whether it's um, cardiac aerobic exercise or whether it's strength training. So strength training has an impact on mental health that's different than aerobic exercise. It takes a certain focus, but that focus pulls our brains away from other things that we may be stressed out about, and it in fact helps us to relax mentally. Okay, and then in terms of our spiritual health, so that goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, which is when we're feeling strong physically and mentally, we're not putting as big a burden on our spiritual health to sustain our lives. Okay. Now, what do I mean by spiritual health? So, excuse me. So the idea that, so for example, if you believe in God and you believe that God takes care of his children, it's a lot easier to remember that and run our lives by it when we're well rested, when we're feeling adequately nourished. Okay, it's a lot easier to keep that in mind when we've exercised and reduced the stress in our lives. Okay, otherwise frustration sets in, and then we start thinking things like, oh, God doesn't really care about me. All those kind of negative spiritual thoughts that come to us. Okay, so all three of these areas of health work together. Okay, so again, sleep, diet, exercise, just incremental change. Don't try to revolutionize your life in 2025. That's the best way to make no progress at all. Just if you haven't done this already, make goals to make 2-3 changes in your sleep, diet, or exercise that will head you in the right direction, and just work on getting those and habituating those. Okay, and if you do a great job on that, okay, so maybe mid-year you'll decide, hey, I think I've got this so far, I'm going to try something else. Okay, but work on incremental change, and while you're doing it, have a vitality spritzer. Who would have thought orange juice and pomegranate was so good together, right? Yum, yum. All right. Well, so thank you so much for joining me, especially those of you who are joining me live. Really appreciate it. Glad to have you back here in the new year. Next week, Monday, is my show, Trusts and Estates Weekly. My guest is Craig Redler, and he's going to talk about Cook Island trusts. This is a way to protect your assets. He's an expert in these. You might say, well, that's pretty esoteric. Join us for you. I think you'll find this quite fascinating. On Tuesday is my show, Business Lessons from the Military, at 10 a.m. Pacific time. All the shows next week, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Okay. And gosh, I don't recall what my topic is for Tuesday. And then Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time is my show, People Making Money. So I hope you'll join me next week. And this is it for this week. So going to wish you a wonderful evening, a wonderful rest of the week and weekend. Wishing you a happy new year, a new year filled with good health, prosperity, and fulfillment. And signing off as I always do, Marie, darling, you are and ever will be my belle. Courage at all times, my friends.